Hi there. This is just a quick update for House of the Dragon news that I'm dashing off, so forgive me if this is a little rough around the edges. HBO updated the copyright registrations for House of the Dragon again. They did this one day after the second teaser trailer premiered, so that came out May 5th. May 6th, they started filling out a wave of new copyright filings, specifically for new heraldry. You follow my channel, I did a whole report on the heraldry filings they did back in December. So this is a follow-up to that, just a quick follow-up to, okay, they registered this heraldry, what does that imply about characters that might appear in the show? And I cautioned, just because something is in there, it might be in the background, that Game of Thrones, most of the heraldry that ever appeared was actually introduced in Season 1, in the tournament scene, because it's not a matter of money, it's a matter of scheduling. There's only a handful of artists in the world who are really good at medieval calligraphy designs like that. So they got Jim Staines to design most of the heraldry in Season 1, and a lot of it was like Bolton heraldry that we didn't see a Bolton character until Season 2, or we had Blackwood heraldry in the background of the tournament since Season 1, but never had a named Blackwood character. So I don't know how prominent everyone is in these, but the ones they registered back in December, and by the way, when they register these, it comes in two sets. They register two different filings of half a dozen each, rather than one big thing of 12 different sigils. I don't know why they do that. It must be just some size limit, I would guess. But combining both lists, back in December, they registered houses Bar Emmon, Karen, Corbray, Mooton of Maidenpool, Mud, which is extinct and we think it's going to appear in like a history book or something, House Rowan, which is very important, House Staunton, and then House Strong, House Targaryen, and House Tarly. Now, sometimes when they register this stuff, they're re-registering things they already had, like the Tarly sigil. They need to update them over time. Other ones are entirely new, like House Karen was in the background in Game of Thrones Season 1, the tournament scene, so I don't know if that means that Boros Baratheon's wife is Elenda Karen, born Elenda Karen, now Elenda Baratheon, so maybe she has a Karen sigil on her clothes, maybe not. They might just be in the background again, or like House Corbray we think we saw in the tournament scene, or we know we saw the Tarly sigil in the tournament scene. And we've seen the Strong sigil in spy photos. It's three lines, red, blue, and green, doesn't really matter, but some of these other ones are important because, like, House Staunton of Rook's Rest, a major battle happens there. The coastal and island houses of the Crown lands are more loyal to the Velaryons, so they come in the story a lot more. House Staunton of Rook's Rest, or House Bar Emmon is a big one. Well, not the big, they're not that big in the story, but there's a named character from House Bar Emmon on Rhaenyra's council, so that's in there. But the big takeaway I had from the first wave was I got really excited that, wow, they registered House Rowan, because we have never had Rowan heraldry before. This means they went out of their way to invent, well, a TV version of the Rowan sigil. Could mean the Rowans are in the background, but it's a point towards that they did not cut the Reach subplot from this show, that Season 2 they probably do intend to include Daeron. I've heard rumors that they'll mention Daeron by name in Season 1, establishing he exists, much as they handled Stannis in Game of Thrones Season 1, that they'll let us know in Season 1 he canonically exists, even if he's not on screen yet. But the thing with Daeron's storyline is that he's fighting the Rowans and the Tarlys, so registering the Rowan heraldry, that's actually really important for that. What do we have? The second set of heraldry that they just registered for everyone. Blackwood, Bracken, Celtigar, we've seen that in spy photos, Kerwin, Crakehall, Hightower, Hornwood, Marbrand, Redwine, Royce, Swan, Velaryon, and Went. Now, obviously, I said this before, the big heraldry we never got was The two most important heraldry designs we never got on screen in Game of Thrones were the ones we would need for a Dance of the Dragons thing, that we never got an official version of the Velaryon sigil or the Hightower sigil, when they're really important for this prequel era, because they're the two halves of House Targaryen intermarried with. And I pointed out in my last video, why doesn't this include a registry for the Velaryon sigil when we've even seen it in promos? Now they have. So they've registered Velaryon, they've registered Hightower, that's good. Probably because someone pointed out the Hightower sigil is technically on Otto's breastplate in the new teaser, but it's not clear enough for us to really use it in fan art. We'll have to see when they start putting out, like on their website, and when they put out like desktop wallpapers for the heraldry of new houses. I look forward to that. What else do they have here? Blackwood and Bracken is interesting. We actually, like I said, we've had both of those since Game of Thrones Season 1. Does the fact that they went out of their way to register it again mean that we will see Blackwoods introduced at like the tournament, because Blackwoods are major, relatively important characters in this prequel era, in the war in the Riverlands? Possibly. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe not. Because then you've got, like, again, House Corbray was just in the background of things. House Celtigar is new, but we already saw it in spy photos. I am excited for it, of course. And some of these are Lannister bannermen. We've got House Marbrand and House Crakehall, the Burning Bush and the Boar, which we, again, have had since Game of Thrones Season 1. Does this mean that, will they be at the tournament? Will they be speaking characters, or just like the original tournament, they're in the background? I mean, I know that there's points where, like, Rhaenyra is touring the realm looking for suitors, and it just says in succession, the Lannister twins, Lord Frey, some of the lords of the Blackwoods and the Brackens all competed for her hand, but none of them worked out. Are we going to see them in a montage or something? I have no idea. Also, House Redwine, which was introduced in Game of Thrones, because remember, Olenna is born Olenna Redwine. And the Redwines are staunch Green loyalists. They are very closely allied with the Hightowers, because they're an island where all the wine grows. They're right near Old Town, and they're the other big naval power. Due to being an island, they need a big navy, and they really don't like the Velaryons. I mean, they established in Fire and Blood that Corlys's grandfather resigned as Hand because he didn't like that Lord Redwine had been named Master of Ships. But they point out the Redwines are staunch Green loyalists, staunch Hightower allies. So I hope they work them in just to tie it in that there's Redwines there. House Swan, for some reason, yet another one that was in the tournament in Season 1. Like, will we see the Dornish Marches? Because the Karens and the Swans are from the Dornish Marches. Or maybe, more likely, when we see Storm's End, which we will in the finale, I'm guessing that we will see not just, a crowd of nobles at Storm's End wearing Baratheon sigils, but some of their bannermen. Like, there'll be a Karen there, also a Swan. I'm starting to lean more towards we'll see a group of Baratheon bannermen at Storm's End. When it was just Karen in isolation, I was saying maybe Elenda Karen will be wearing one of their Nightingale sigils, I don't know. Now that we have a Swan, a little more likely. Or maybe we'll have, remember the Black Swan of Lys? That we know they're fighting the pirates and the Stepstones this season. What if you see that noblewoman as a teenager being captured by the pirates and sold into slavery in Lys, and she's wearing a swan sigil on her clothing? Possible. But I think it's more of a crowd shot at Storm's End situation. Went is very confusing, because I looked this up. House Went are, every couple of generations, the house that's ruling Harrenhal dies out. So it started with Cohaerys in the Conquest generation. It was one of Aegon the Conqueror's followers. He died out under his son or something. Then they gave it to the Harroways. Maegor killed them, gave it to the Towers. Then the Towers died out, so they gave it to the Strongs. That after House Strong dies out, it passes to House Lothston, who are ruling it by the time of Dunkenegg. I don't think there's an intervening one between Strong and Lothston. Lothston. Doesn't roll off the tongue. And the earliest we hear about the Wents are the family ruling it by the time of Game of Thrones. House Went, it just says the earliest they're mentioned is they were knights, landless knights, serving House Lothston during the Duncan Egg era. And presumably, they're alive before that, but they're not even landed knights in this time period. They would just be, maybe they're putting it in as a cameo, putting in we have the Strongs in this. Maybe they're just a knight in, like Jory Cassell, that they're a knight in service to House Strong, and they'll just bother naming them Went as a tie-in. Lionel Strong or Harwin Strong, like his captain of his guards will be like Bob Went or something. And remember, the Wents are, Catelyn Tully's mother was a Went, so, Minissa Went, so like when Arya's at Harrenhal, it's like, she technically has some claim to this castle. Her grandmother was a Went. They get killed off in the middle of the story. The only one left is an old woman. She dies, so who knows what's going to happen to Harrenhal, the main thing. But Went isn't there for some reason. We will see Harrenhal, so maybe we'll see them as knights, just in a retinue. The thing that confuses me the most, they registered Targaryen again, but not like Lannister or Stark, when we know that there are Lannisters in Season 1. They've cast Tyland and Jason. Why are there Stark bannermen in this? Kerwin and Hornwood, who are not even major characters. Are they just re-registering because they already happen to have it? It'll just be, I think it'll be background sigils in the tournament scene. I don't think they'll introduce things. And people are pointing out, why not reuse House Dustin? Well, because House Dustin's sigil didn't appear in Game of Thrones. And they'd have to hire someone to invent it, but then again, they invented the Valyrian sigil, so the Keldagar sigil, I don't know what's going on with that. Some are afraid that this means that they'll combine Roddy Dustin, Roddy the Ruin with Cregan Stark. I really hope they don't, because I wouldn't mind if Cregan came to the south to lead his armies by combining him with a bannerman. The problem is that Roddy Dustin dies, so it'll be hard to combine them. I don't know. So I put this video out quickly, unedited, just they've registered a few more heraldry, and that might imply something. It's nice to see that they've re-registered Blackwood, but hey, Blackwood was in the background in Season 1 of Game of Thrones. That doesn't equate to having a named character. We'll see what happens. Oh, they registered some other copyrights and stuff that it's weird that History of Westeros podcast said they contacted one of the writers through social media who said that the Stark in the teaser trailer is named Rickon, as in the books, not Rickard as in the subtitles. When they registered it for copyright, it got registered as Rickard Stark. And History of Westeros told me we're really confused about this. A writer told us something else. Yeah, it sounds like he says Rickon to me. But the subtitles and the copyright say Rickard. What I'm starting to suspect happened is that this is a change they made in post-production. Like, after they filmed, they decided we should rename him so people don't confuse him with the other Rickon. So they're going to just hope people mishear it, even though in the credits it'll be Rickard, or maybe they'll overdub it in post, I don't know. So that's what's going on with copyright registration for now.